So Southgate excluded 8 players from my predicted roster in the previous video. 2 days ago, he excluded Pope, the goalkeeper, Ben White. Ben White doesn't want to play for Southgate or his coaching staff. Number 3, Henderson, Jordan Henderson. 4, Rico Lewis. 5, Tyrone Mings. I said either he would pick Mings or Konsa. He went with Konsa, although I would have picked both of them. 6, Rashford, and 7, Raheem Sterling. So those are not 8, 7 players that he didn't pick that I chose for my predicted roster. So we already know Southgate has his usual selections. So let's just go through some of the key highlights. Starting with the goalkeepers. Nick Pope. So previously I selected him. Previously he's been selected by Southgate to go into competitions. But now he's definitely fallen in the pecking order. Instead he's gone with Crystal Palace's Dean Henderson and 21-year-old James Trafford. So I don't know much about Trafford, but he's obviously quite young. Dean Henderson was a shock because his teammate at Crystal Palace, Johnston, is usually called up, and even Crystal Palace fans prefer him over Henderson. So I thought that was quite shocking. Now let's look at the defence. So I knew that at least one Aston Villa defender would receive a call-up. I thought it would be Mings, based off of experience, but Southgate chose Konsa. Not mad about that, since that's his preference. As I said before, I would have called up both of them. Also, Luke Shaw received a call-up. It's still surprising, given his lack of playing time this year, his injuries, but he is decent when healthy. So that's understandable. But I still think it's a wasted spot if he's not healthy, given the fact that he's literally the only left back in the roster. He also called up Braithwaite, Lewis Dunk, Joe Gomez, Guehi, and Kwanzaa. Out of those names, I'd expect Guehi and Gomez to travel to Germany, but I do prefer Dunk over Braithwaite and Kwanzaa. They're both young and still have a lot to prove, but they both have hopefully bright futures ahead of them. I think for defence-wise, the biggest snubs are international stars in Tomori, Dyer, and Smalling. I never thought he would ever consider Tomori and Smalling, despite how good they are. But Dyer's a shock based on past selections. Bayern Munich and their fans can't praise him enough, and he's been one of their best defenders, They include him in the Champions League semi-final. Highly experienced, Dyer is. He made his debut for England in 2015, aged just 21. Every tournament coached by Southgate, he's been there, but unfortunately, not this year. Another snub, Reece James. Pretty much similar circumstances, Luke Shaw, but I still think he's far better than him offensively and defensively. Could say the same thing about Ben Chilwell. Rico Lewis had more than enough appearances for Man City this year, just 19 years of age. And we also saw his versatility defensively and his ability on the ball in his first team debut in November. He's now a two-time Premier League champ, training every week with the best players in the world, one of the greatest teams we've ever seen in football. Rico Lewis is a serious player, but unfortunately, Southgate hasn't considered him for the Euros. Even Tyreek Mitchell is a snub, as he is a left-back. He's called up 4 Crystal Palace players and not Mitchell. He's one of their best defenders. So that's a bit shocking or surprising too. Or if it's not surprising, it's a snub. Midfield. Interestingly, in the pay-per-views, Trent is placed as a midfielder, which does give him, does give us some clue as to how he's going to be used during the competition. Pretty sure he'll be a right mid, because I don't understand how he would fit centrally with Rice. I knew he would pick Gallagher and Maddison. I think they're both worthy based off what they bring to the table. Maddison's taken the next step, and Gallagher's has a crucial role in Chelsea. I do think that Gallagher has been disappointing this year, but I'm not mad about those 2 selections, Gallagher and Maddison. I'm not so mad about them. But I do think that the midfield is the most depleted part of the squad by far. He's gone with Curtis Jones, Mainu, and Wharton. All 3 of them are just not ready. Curtis Jones is difficult to position. Mainu, I think, is most capable of the 3, but there's still a lot of question marks based off of his inexperience in the national team. I personally will still bring him to Germany, but I'm not confident that Southgate would. Wharton, for me, is just a piss take. I don't know what else to say about that. I reckon there's probably some kind of family or friend link, or perhaps Southgate and Steve Parish have something going on between themselves for why they picked him. Because this is ridiculous, especially when you consider how depleted this part of the squad is, how crucial the midfield is in the modern game, and the big name midfielders they've been snubbed. It's just a piss take. And even this issue of the midfield is the main reason why France knocked out England in the last World Cup. But lesson hasn't been learned. I think the biggest snubs when it comes to the midfield, we have to talk about Henderson. People don't realise what Jordan Henderson, he brings so much to the table. He's a veteran leader, is an experienced midfielder, not fazed by pressure. I love Declan Rice. I do. I love him a lot. But, hello, Henderson's a Champions League winner. Henderson is bringing things to the table that no other midfielder in this roster are capable of bringing. So I just think not picking Jordan Henderson is highly disrespectful. Just let him have one more competition. I would have said Loftus-Cheek, but he's dealing with a hamstring injury. And Even if he was healthy, I still doubt that Southgate would pick him. Ward-Prowse is a snub, a set-piece specialist. No one can do what Ward-Prowse does, and to the level and consistency that he does it. He's played 31 games for England under 21, 11 for the first team. They just don't respect him. They don't respect Ward-Prowse. And I'm not just naming random snubs. Like, these are players that actually have an impact to the team, maybe even more of an impact than the names that have been included in the squad. So many goals are scored from set pieces, corners, and free kicks. Ward-Prowse can he's good at penalties as well. For some teams in the tournament, that's literally their bread and butter, set pieces. So it's unfortunate that Ward-Prowse has been overlooked yet again. Let's finally look up front. This is where it gets interesting. So Bowen, and Eze have both had highly productive seasons. They've been included in the squad. Considering the teams they play for, West Ham and Crystal Palace, I wasn't expecting any of them to receive a call-up. And personally, I still don't think they travelled the team to Germany. But they have had really productive seasons this year. So if you base it off of that, yeah, they do deserve a spot. But I just don't think they travelled the team. The other surprise for me was Ivan Toney. Just because of his stats this season. Well, he's definitely one of the best English strikers. He's a penalty specialist. I did think Callum Wilson would get the nod over him. He was selected for the World Cup by Southgate. He's had a better season, even while sharing space with Isak at Newcastle. He now has Champions League experience. So I expected Wilson to get the nod, or at least to be considered, but no. It's going with Toney. Biggest snub, obviously, is Rashford. Highly disrespectful, but I'm happy Rashford gets to have a break from all this nonsense. Here's a message to all you guys saying that Rashford is lazy, doesn't care, inconsistent, or can't play, because this is absolutely ridiculous. Like, you guys saying all this stuff, you should be ashamed of yourself. I'm sorry, it sounds harsh, but you really should. You guys should be ashamed of yourself. If I'm managing a team and I have a player with that talent and ability, someone that actually invokes fear in his opponents, invokes fear to his opponents, I really don't care. Even if he hasn't scored a goal all season long, I'm picking him. I'm using him. Tell me one defender that wants to face Rashford 1v1. Who's stopping Rashford in the counter-attack? Rashford puts in the work. He's been on this stage before. Like, people need to realise that his absence actually hurts the chemistry of this team. It really does. If we really think that Bellingham is this golden generation kid, then you need to select and put the right pieces around him. Rashford and Bellingham gel so well together. And we've seen it. He doesn't have that chemistry with Foden or Bowen. He doesn't. So that's all I gotta say. You guys disrespecting Rashford should really be ashamed, especially Manchester United fans. How many managers has he had, and he's still trying and trying every year? You guys just disrespect him. Can say the same thing for Sterling and Sancho. I don't know how Sterling is not selected. I knew that Sancho would be scrutinised, but Sterling is another crazy one. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see whether this team is capable of performing any counter-attacks, because they'll definitely need to against some top teams, maybe in the later stage of the tournament, if they get there. Based on the team selection, I really want to ask Southgate, what are your objectives? What are your objectives coming into this tournament? Is it just to get out of the group? Semi-final? Make the final? Or to actually win the Euros in Germany? It does seem like Rice and Saka are going to have to carry the heavy load of this team. Rice hasn't got Henderson to lean on. He's pretty much the captain now, at least for that midfield. Saka has been the best player for England whenever he's been on the pitch. No Rashford, no Sterling, no Sancho. So a lot of reliance on Saka. Based off the omission of big names like Rashford, Sterling, Sancho, here's the deal. Phil Foden, you better be ready. You better be ready. You three-peated last year, Premier League this year, FA Cup winner in the next few days. Expectations are high for Foden coming into this tournament. No Rashford, no Sterling, no Sancho. This is not no small move from Gareth Southgate. It's not an experiment. This is literally his preparation for the real tournament, the big stage. It's not a small move. The world is watching. The nation is watching. We already know that Kane's going to show up. Saka is going to show up. Bellingham will show up. Now it's over to you, Foden. Southgate's literally expanded Foden's role immensely. He has no choice but to show up. That's all I gotta say. He has to show up.